And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Melody, this is my dad, and we're reviewing Fairyland.
Fairies? I'm getting kind of tired of playing games that got fairies. Fairyland is a set collection game, and what that means is it's a game where you're trying to get cards of the same type. You're trying to get animals, and you're trying to get gems. I'm sorry, not gems, flowers. And you're trying to but you have a group of fairies that send out. You know, if your kids are fans of that terrible Tinkerbell series, they might like this because that's the theme that this brings out. The fairies are going out and getting stuff and bringing it back in. But it's actually fairly cutthroat as an auction game. Let me show you, and we'll be back. Here we have a deck of forest cards. This is the forest deck, although 9 of the forest cards are set aside over here in a druid deck. And then we have a special deck over here, the Queen's Court deck, which is special cards which come from a whole deck of special cards. So you're never really sure what's in there. Each player is going to get a bunch of these cards here. These are fairy cards, and they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus a coat of arms. All of them are the same. So you'll take those into your hand. And then we have 3 forest cards that are face up here into 3 clearings. On a player's turn, they first have to turn over 2 cards from this deck and add them to 2 different clearings. So I could do that, for example, and maybe the next player would do something like this. Okay? Now, then each player has an action that you can take. One of your actions can be to explore a clearing. Basically what you do here is you will open up a bid on a clearing. So the person to your left will bid a certain number of fairy points, and it will go around the table, and you have the last bid. You have 1 bid only. So let's say I win the bid with 10. So fortunately I still have my 6 and my 4 fairy cards in my hand, and so I get rid of both of these, discard them, and I'll take this whole stack, and I put them in front of me. And now there's only 2 stacks here. And so, but I mean, eventually more will be added to the different stacks as people put the different cards up into these stacks. When you use these fairy cards, they're gone for good, except you can play a coat of arms as your action and basically take all your fairies back, and then you lose this one. So you only have each fairy card once. Instead of bidding on a clearing here, you can also explore the druid pile here by, let's say I play a 7 on my turn. That means I can look at 6 cards here. That's 1 less than 7. If I played a 3 and a 5 for 8, again, I could look at 7 cards here. Or I can do that here into the Queen's Court. Now, these cards themselves are going to be cards that give special abilities. You see this one here gives 5 points if you use it on your turn, while this one here lets you take a card from a clearing of your choice. And this one here you can discard to get rid of 2 goblins in front of you. So, let's say I play a 7, I get to go through 7 of these cards, but I only get to keep 1 of them, and then the rest I would put back on the bottom of the deck. And so this keeps going. So your action again is to put 1 of these up for bidding, to explore 1 of these 2 decks, to use an item, and that's basically it. At the end of a turn, if any of these clearings here have 6 cards, they're discarded, and you just keep going. You're going to go until this deck runs out. At that point, you're going to do some scoring. Many of the cards from the forest are animal cards, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most of each animal card will get that many points. So this is just there's 1 unicorn card, so you would get 1 point. But if you had the most deer, you get 4 points. The most squirrels, 7 points. The most turtles, 4 points. Although if you have exactly 3 turtles, you will get 7 points. It's something special. So there's all different kinds of animals that are worth different point values, and again, whoever has the most gets those points. There's also fairy cards. These aren't scored at the end of the game. Instead, when you win these cards, you will simply put them in your hand, and you have more fairy cards to use, and many of them have special abilities that they're worth different values depending on when you use it. Then there's a special card here which is worth 9 points if you find the other half of the pendant, which is in the Queen's Court deck. And then there are flowers. And flowers are worth points depending on how many you have of the same kind. So let's say, for example, you have 4 yellow flowers, you would get 10 points at the end of the game. And then also how many different flowers. So if you have all 5 different flowers, that's worth 10 points at the end of the game. So you want same and different. Some cards are worth negative points. Goblins are worth -2 if you have the most goblins, and if you don't have the most goblins, they're still worth -1. While troll cards don't score at the end of the game, but when they show up, they will destroy other cards that you already have. So what you do is at the end of the round or game, depending on how many rounds you want to play, you will add up your scores in front of you, and then you can start another round, or you can end the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner.
Why would you use fairies to auction? Like, are they...
Well, I think it's how many fairies you send out to get something.
Ah.
Like I sent out 15 fairies and you only sent out 3. So, of course, I'm the one who persuaded the bear to join my team, I guess. But, I mean, what did you think?
I like this game a lot. The artwork was kind of weird, but it did
They're
kind of...
fairies. What do you expect?
More Tinkerbellish. But it was fun trying to auction, try to get like the bear, the flowers. I tried to get the 5 flowers thing, but it was other people kept putting either the goblins or the orcs on the white flower that I needed.
Yeah, that's really an interesting thing where there's those negative cards in there, and that the auctioning is really interesting because you'll find yourself falling into, oh, I need to save my fairies. I need to save my fairies. And then the game ends and you still have fairies. Well, you've wasted those fairies, my friends. You need to get in there and grab as much stuff as you can. But when to get it. And is it better to search through those piles of cards? How powerful are those special cards? They're very useful cards. But if that's all you do is waste your time getting those special cards, you won't get any animal cards or getting the most squirrels or getting, you know, as many different flowers as you can. Did you like the auction part where it only goes around one time?
It would have been a little better if it went around multiple times.
Yeah, but that would also drag the game out and make it longer. This way the game was shorter.
But usually it was always guaranteed that the person that played the card would usually win the whatever he wanted.
Well, that's because you go last, but other people can bid you up to make sure that you pay out your nose for it.
Yeah.
I wondered why the game is currently a maximum of 4 players. I wonder why it's not 5, or maybe even up to 6. I mean, other than maybe they'd have to add more cards, or maybe they play test and it was longer. The game right now is 30 to 45 minutes, which I think is a pretty decent length for it. It doesn't go on too long, and it offers you different strategies. Do you want to go for flowers? Do you want to go for animals? Do you want to go for a mix of the two? But don't perceive this as a heavy game. The only heavy part of it is knowing what fairies to bid. Getting extra fairies helps, but I mean, if you make mistakes in your bidding and you don't win many things, you're going to lose, I think. So, overall, what's your final thoughts?
I like the game.
Okay. A thumb up? I'll give it a thumb up too. I mean, I don't love it, but it's a decent game, and I look at it as a little bit of a heavier filler. Certainly one that makes you think. It's not a mindlessly played game, that's for sure. And I really did enjoy the artwork, and I like the fact that there's different special cards from game to game. So that's Fairyland.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.